what I'm going to present today is a series of videos on volleyball, and I'm going to be unpacking the what and how of why things are occurring in play. So what I'm focusing on today is how many times a ball is returned successfully after a serve in comparison to how many times a ball is returned unsuccessfully after a serve. And I'm going to be using Forrest's Grammar of Games concepts as the analyst tool for this. What I'm going to do within this first video is analyse a serve being returned unsuccessfully, and I'm going to focus specifically on the team that is closest to the camera, including the male in the red shirt and the female in the white t-shirt. And the first thing I'm going to analyse is the individual aspects of decision making, looking specifically at a cognitive and knowledge map and the posture and position of the players. So the first thing I noticed with this video is, first of all, the opposition and where the server is manipulating the ball into. And this gave me an idea of where the players are setting themselves up. So what I firstly noticed was this ball is being manipulated into the same spot by the opposition server each time. And that spot we can represent right here on the court. So if we look at Forrest's Grammar of Games concepts and specifically look at the principles of play, without possession in net, wall and court games, we are required to be in a position to cover all areas of the court. So what I can see these players doing on this team is they're setting themselves up at a significant distance away from each other, even though the ball is being manipulated into the same space each time. So this also tells me about these players that they have an inability to create a cognitive map as to what is occurring. So this occurs a number of times that the ball is landing in this position, and however, they're not making any tactical changes at either an individual or a team level to cover this position so the ball can be returned successfully. So the question is here, why are they setting themselves up at such a distance apart from each other? So if we look back to Forrest's Grammar of Games concepts and specifically the characteristics of levels, when we look at a beginner level in regards to decision making, the gap between the decision and the action in play follows the same decision pattern every time. So they are recognizing limited resources within themselves and the limited resources within their teammates also. And also, if we look at beginners in regards to Lindbergh volleyball skills, they suggest that beginners create a safety space between themselves. And they feel that they need a space to execute a movement without actually knowing what that movement actually involves. So what this is telling me here is that these players are sitting at a beginner level. And if we come back to the Forrest Grammar of Games concepts and the characteristics of levels, beginners tend to have this see, think, do mentality. And that comes back again to them following a pattern. But the idea of the see, think, do mentality is, I see what is occurring. I have to think about what I'm going to do next before I actually do it. What we can see towards the end of this video is Reese in the red shirt actually making a decision to go for the ball before pulling out. So what I want to mention here is the fundamental aspects of games and sports and this idea of play spaces. And here what I'm seeing is the use of effective play space. So the distance between the players on the same team. So Reese has made the decision to go for this ball that has been served by the opposition, and he's noticed that his teammate has come in at the same time, so he's quickly made that decision to not go for the ball. Now that's probably just a bit of awareness of him not knowing and being aware of his space, and her also not knowing what is his space in comparison to what is her space. So there's also here a breakdown in communication between the players. So there's no verbal communication between the players, and there's also no non-verbal communication between the players. So what I'm also going to make mention of here is, in regards to Forrest Grammar of Games concepts, falling under communication and concentration is the attention demand theory. So I can see that represented within Reese's decision to go for the ball and the idea of the central resource theory. So there's a number of things demanding his attention at that time. So he's got to make the decision to go for the ball, to get the ball correctly over the net, but he also has his team member coming in for the same ball. So he's got two different things there demanding his attention, and he doesn't really know what to focus on. So it all becomes too much and he pulls out of the decision. I'm going to bring your attention now to a second video, and within this video we're going to be analysing the team on the opposite side of the net. What I'm going to make mention of here is the pattern that I am seeing within this context in comparison to the first video. So what we're seeing here is Andy is serving the ball, and the ball is landing in the same spot almost every time. And what the players are doing is they're setting themselves up in a position where the ball is not going to be returned. And this is a problem because it shows their inability again to not create a cognitive map as to what's happening. So the ball is being manipulated in the same spot every time, yet they're still making no tactical changes in regards to respond to this. So at an individual level, they're not making any tactical changes, and they're not making any tactical changes at a team level. There's also a breakdown in communication, just like we saw in the first video, where the ball lands straight between the three players and there's no communication, or there's no one even gone for the ball. So there's a breakdown in both verbal and non-verbal communication. Even though the ball has landed there a number of times, they're still unable to return that ball and understand that pattern of what is occurring. The next thing I'm going to observe within this series of videos is the ball being returned over the net successfully after a serve. So within the first two videos, the two teams that we observed did not have a sequence of gameplay which enabled them to successfully return the ball over the net. Going to focus our attention now on the team closest to the camera, and the first thing I noticed in regards to the grammar of games concepts is they're beginning to work together as a cohesive unit. So the players have more tactical flexibility with what they're doing here, and what we can see is they're effectively using their play space, and you can see here that they're turning themselves in a circle in which they're going to attack the ball. So by the players turning themselves in a circle, it's allowing them to work cohesively within an effective play space. This video also highlights the players' ability to switch their attentional focus. So they're switching their attentional focus between moving themselves around and having themselves and their body parts in a position where they are going to successfully return the ball. So that is the position of themselves and their arms in comparison to where the ball is and where they need to get the ball to. Looking further into posture and position, Nolan's work on strategy and tactics, specifically for volleyball, suggests that for successful defence, each player must be ready to attack the ball each time it is hit by its opponents. So therefore, the way to return the ball successfully relies heavily on the player's position to receive the ball. So then this is, of course, linking back to the grammar of games concepts of posture and position under decision making. So what Nolan is suggesting here is the only way for the ball to be returned successfully is when the players expect to hit the ball every time it is attacked. And that's what you're seeing in this video. The players are prepared to hit the ball every single time it is attacked by the opponents. Therefore, every player is assuming a defensive ready position in anticipation. To finish the video, I just want to make mention of an educational perspective and how we can focus on improvement. So firstly, we would want to be developing the posture and position, which is going to enable the players to have control over where their shot is going. We also want to focus on the players' awareness of team members and to develop stronger communication and boundaries between the players. We also want to be encouraging players to be understanding their errors in play. So linking back to the grammar of games concepts, this is going to enable more tactical flexibility and enable them to identify what they're doing wrong and make those changes both at an individual level and at a team level. If we look further into Lenberg's research, which was previously mentioned, this could be as simple as giving early feedback to beginners, so identifying their errors early and enabling them to make those adjustments, which by knowing their errors is going to give them more flexibility to make those changes.